Good evening all. Good day to those that are going to watch this during the day, or good day to those that it is daytime. But I think considering that it's Friday night, I can only say that it's by God's grace and with the help of RAEL that I'm not on a park bench or on a pavement tonight or under a bridge. Because we all know that the ends of addiction and alcoholism and all kinds of addiction, alcoholism is one of them, ends up in three places, and that's jails, institutions, and death. And I've been to both of those besides the death. I could have been, I think I was close to death a couple of times. But it's pure grace, you know, on a Friday night that I haven't harmed anybody today. We were harmed. They stole Mr. Hall's phone out of the car today. It was a possibility. We suspect that it was the alarm was jammed. But you win some and you lose some. And that's just the way it goes. So, by God's grace, I'm sitting with 30 other people in a safe environment. Good evening, all. The names are popping up quick here. And tonight we've got quite a long walk journey. Person sharing that's walked a long road. Not only through life, but through addiction and life struggles. And addiction is only part of what we struggle with. Hi there, Kerry from Israel. How's it, Charlotte? Lee J, our social media queen there in the UK. And it's really good to see that people are watching on a Friday night. Tracy, how's it? So it's tonight is one of my personal friends that was at RAEL a couple of years ago. And the thing is, what we always say in addiction recovery is that we need to stay away from that first one. And those of you that aren't drug users or addicts, and that are maybe cigarette smokers, and a couple of you guys that have tried to stop or busy trying to stop, in addiction recovery we say that that we stay away from the first one. Because once I have that first one, how's it, Gladwin Clutchy? Lekker to check your oaks watching. Lekker to check part of my crazy family that is online here. Not my crazy blood family, my crazy recovering addicts family. Because we are a big family. And that's why I say, by God's grace tonight, how many other places are you going to go on a Friday night where there's 30 people that were substance abusers, that used to cause destruction and chaos and mayhem in their own and other people's lives, and not only can they put their head on the pillow tonight, but their families and their loved ones can also put their head on the pillow tonight, knowing that they're in a safe environment. And so Grant will be sharing tonight some of his experiences and strengths and the hope, you know, when Grant came in here almost 8 months ago, you know, like I said, we stay away from that first one. In some cases it takes us down very quickly, some cases it takes a little bit longer, but the end results, like we said, is always jails, institutions, and death. That's what we've come to believe through our own experience and our actions. And fortunately, I haven't experienced the last one. And when I take the first drink or drug or pill or whatever it is, within 2 weeks, maximum a month, I lose everything because it's a progressive illness. Maybe the first time I lost everything, it took a bit of a while until the wheels came off. But I know that if I have any mood or mind-altering substance today, it hits a switch on inside of me because I've crossed the invisible line. That is what makes me a addict in recovery. And just for today, I'm recovered because I haven't had a drink or a drug. Because my default is almost drinking and drugging, because that is what I trained myself to do. So that's what we say. And lekker, Mr. Hall. I hope you travel safe there on the airport. Just be safe. And sorry, I'm just thinking about the other time another time at the airport, because I've flown in aeroplanes and I've flown without aeroplanes already on a Friday night. But today I'm recovered. Today, by God's grace and by people carrying the message the way I do now, namely Mr. Hall, is that I'm sober. And like I said, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And over the years, like we train ourselves over the years that it's natural to there's a switch inside of us if we don't deal well with conflict or breakups or relationships or not getting our way. It's not, your brain tells yourself subtly that I'm going to go get rid of this feeling now. It doesn't actually happen where it says I don't like divorce, or I don't like conflict, or I don't like bitterness or chaos or resentment. It becomes a default way of operating. Or I don't like being tired, or whatever the case might be. And so we try and live differently. We need to constantly work on our recovery, because at the end of the day, we're only working on our recovery or our relapse. So if I stop putting in the effort, I automatically start swaying back towards relapse. And that is what happens in addiction recovery. People come into rehabs and they do their thing over here, and there's a good reminder because there's newcomers that come in and all of that, and we see how messed up they are from the drug recently, the more recent people that come in. And yeah, no, for sure, Mr. Hall, we were robbed and we used to rob, or I used to rob, but maybe it was my turn to get robbed today. But thank God we're safe. And that we had each other to lean on or speak to, or to deal with it. Because maybe the result would have been different if I wasn't in a safe environment and something happened to me that I didn't like. Or maybe if my support system that I wake up to with around me 20 days out of the month, if that isn't around me or on dial at my fingertips, then it can be a little bit more serious. But so Grant's travelled this road. He was at RAEL before, and life outside for recovering addicts, when they're not ready, it's very fast. People that know, like I said earlier, people that are maybe non-addicts know that life can be hectic, and there's this extra things that we need to do to stay sober, especially in the first 2 years. It is extra effort that is needed to be put in, and after that period of time, it doesn't just slip away, but it becomes a little bit more second nature, or a little bit more habit. And Grant went out there, and he lasts a little bit longer than what I do, and was doing well, started working, and this is about 5 years ago when he left RAEL, and then returned 8 months ago, knocking on death's door. I think he was maybe about 20 kilos lighter, in a very bad state, and maybe just God sent or God's timing that he landed up here again. So I'll leave him to it and to tell his story. But I've once again had the privilege to see a man going from bandages and limping and low self-esteem and everything to working and again I say by God's grace, also one of the people that is still employed through the lockdown and has a job and is doing his thing, has been sober and really contributes to the community as such or that we have here. And I'm gonna let him tell his story. The reception could possibly be bad because of the weather. Just let me check here if I can get a better connection. Okay, because mine just said trying to reconnect. I think I'm reconnected. But most of all, we're sitting here by God's grace sober this evening, and Grant is going to tell his story, or he'll have a little bit to say, and then that will be good to hear. All right. So Grant is going to take the chair now. Here we go. There's the chair, Grant.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Grant. I'm 39 years old, and I'm a recovering addict. What can I say? I'm just reading here. Thanks, Garth. Love you. Yeah, my story is much like everyone else's. I grew up in Lansdowne. Hi Gano. Hi Michelle. Love you, Lee. Yeah, I grew up in Lansdowne. I lived with my grandmother. Bless her soul. She did such a lot for me. Yeah, I went to Windsor High School. I matriculated in 2000. I started.
Was naughty at school?
No, yeah, I was. I started using in high school. I started with Mandrax, and I became a full-blown Mandrax addict by the age of like 15 or something like that. I didn't know much about addiction recovery. I just kept on using. I lived a normal life. Well, not normal, but I lived my life until about the age of 20, and I stopped using. I started working, and I started as a boy in a workshop, and I knew nothing. And I taught myself and grew from there, and to about the age of 23 when I started using again. I started with sorry, I'm just reading the comments here. Yeah, so I don't want to go much into my life. What I do want to talk about is This little book here. This just for today. Now this book has helped me through my recovery. Oh, Gladwin. Luandre. Yeah, Luandre. How's it, Mr. Lucas? Cup of tea is nice.
Yeah. Speak up a little bit, please, Grant.
Yeah, I'm trying. Can I get this light on you? I can't see. So yeah, I'm gonna read a bit on this just for today. Thanks. Now, this just for today starts with the Serenity Prayer. So I'm going to read the Serenity. Well, not read. I'm going to say the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, recovery involves change. That's what I needed to do. I needed to change, and I put myself into a very bad situation where, I've lived on the streets. I've lived in very bad places, and lived in drug dens, but it's all places I've put myself into. And I remember I was sitting one day and I went down on my knees and I prayed to God. I said, God, help me. I mean, I was in a very bad situation. I was hijacked, doing drugs, and I was burnt, hit with a machete, tortured, locked in a little shack, and things weren't going good for me, and I went down on my knees and I prayed. I said, God, help me, please help me through this. And I got a message from my mom saying, why don't I go to Graham the Great? He's my brother. Yes, was all I was in Mitchell's Plain. This is where the incident took place, in Mitchell's Plain. And I was, so after speaking to Graham, I came back to RAEL because I needed to change. And change means doing things differently. I was just reading the comments here. Thank you everyone for the kind words. The problem is many of us resist doing things differently, which is the truth. We become comfortable in our comfort zone. Yeah, so just comment here. And drugs was my comfort zone. I mean, I've been through a lot of crap. I've experienced a lot of stuff, life stuff that I've had to deal with, and stuff that wasn't easy, and my coping mechanism was drugs. So what we're doing may not be working, but at least we're familiar with it. It takes courage to step out into the unknown. How do we find that courage? Well, how do we find that courage? And it took a lot of courage for me to come here. I mean, the second time around for me wasn't easy. I thought I was going to get it easy because of having Kurt and Graham here and Mr. Hall. But they gave it to me tough. It wasn't a walk in the park. I mean, I wouldn't say I battled, but it wasn't easy. I took a lot of Yeah, so you got your fish and chips. Uh, okay, so where was I? So I was just reading here. So yeah, the change. How do we find it? We can look around at ourselves at meetings. There we see others who found they needed to change what they were doing and who've done so successfully. Not only does that help quiet our fear, it also gives us the benefit of their experience with that work. So, okay, so yeah. Thanks, Richie. Yeah, so coming back to my situation that I put myself into, it was a progression over some years. When I left RAEL, I started working, and things were going well. I mean, I was going to meetings, going to church, doing everything by the book, and I became complacent. You know, I was working, I got some money in, and things were going so well. Things were going very well for me. And it was the weekend of my birthday. I decided to take a drink. So I just took one shot, and then it was on. My after about an hour of drinking, I went to go look for my drug of choice, and I took a few hits and carried on with the night. Well, little did I know, on the Monday when I went back to work, I walked straight into a drug test, tested positive, and lost my job. This is how God works. I mean, so I just moved into a place, and we yeah, sorry. So I just moved into a place, lost my job, didn't know where I was going to get income, and this is a position I put myself in for one stupid choice. Yeah, that's correct. One shot is all it takes. So yeah, I went on about a 2-week binge after that, just using, because like I said, that's all I could do to cope. And I was just putting myself through hell, and then I decided, no, I can't do this anymore. So I stopped. And the week that I stopped, I got a job again, and things were going well. So I was working with a plumber, and I was getting some income. Everything was going. So okay. So I was working and started going to meetings again. Started going to church again. This was, every time I did this, things were going well for me. And then I become complacent, and the cycle starts over again. And it always starts with a drink. So Yeah, I'm talking as loud as I can. I don't know what's going on with the sound. Yeah. Yeah, there's a big storm here in Cape Town at the moment, so it could be affecting the audio. Yeah. So I needed to change my life, and yeah, I just kept on going through this vicious cycle all the time. Okay, and then at the time I was living in Edgemead, I became comfortable. Okay. I became comfortable where I was staying, and then I got sad news that I had to leave. So from Edgemead, I moved to Tableview. Now this is where things got very rocky for me, because then I started using another drug, and it was just this downward spiral from there. So like Mr. Schuler said, it's a progression, and there's no such thing as using just once for people like us. I mean, we addicts. So yeah, but I've always been working in that. That's easy for me to work, because I'm a hard worker and always got income. So I didn't look. There was times where I had to do some bad things to get some money, and yeah, my mother helped me a lot. If it wasn't for her, I would have been down and out. I wouldn't say enabled me, but she enabled me. My things didn't work out for me in Tableview. I mean, I made a impulsive decision, and I left everything that I earned there, moved to Mitchell's Plain, and with a girl that I loved, and I mean, it just wasn't a place. The gangsterism, the drugs, gangsterism, robbing, stealing, conning, all the above. You know, I was doing it all, lying. Yeah, and the plane. So one evening I was hijacked. Like I said before, and that was a big turning point for me. It was this very scary situation, and yeah, I was a boof. Manipulating, that's it, yes. Big manipulator, big manipulator. And so our own experiences and the experience of others in NA tells us that changing the things I can is a big part of what recovery is all about. So I took the step. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you. I've really appreciated it. Like I said, my story is much like a lot of others. It's just And I've accepted it. I've accepted the fact that I'm an addict. I've accepted the fact that I need to be here at RAEL. And you know, with the help and support of Mr. Wall, Mr. Schuler, Graham, and I'm reading it just for today, Garth. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, so with the help of and support of everybody here, I've gotten through a lot. I'm on the main. Thanks, Mom. I miss you. Love you lots. My walk through recovery now, I've been so blessed. I mean, nothing the second time. I've got a job. Through the whole lockdown, I've been on the go. I've been working. I've oh, you're gonna make me cry, Mom. I've been working. I'm blessed. I eat, as you can see. Oh, I see myself. I'm chubby in the cheeks, and all I can say is that thank you to everyone who's helped me through on this road. Yes. What? Thank you, Dale. I appreciate it. Which I do believe in myself now. I mean, I would have never have thought I could speak like this over a live platform. And you know, also, I'm not getting any younger. My age is, I'm almost 40. And what have I really achieved in life? And this is also another reason why I need to yeah, Gracie is my girlfriend. And I just needed to take that step and change my life for the better. I mean, I asked God for help, and help is what I've gotten. Thanks to this organization right here. Hashtag Orange Friday. Okay, so thank you for listening to me. I'm just reading Dale's thing here. Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot to me. All the comments, and I'm glad to see Gladwin, Clutchy. Thank you, Mr. Darrell. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, just a big thank you. I'm very grateful for everything that's happened to me, and for the guys here that are trying to make me laugh. But yeah, I'm going to say good evening now. I hope you guys got something out of that. What? Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Schuler? I'm gonna hand over to Mr. Thank you.
Okay, that's a bit bright there.
I need it.
Too bright for me because I'm used to dark spaces. And yeah, speaking about dark spaces and places, you know, it's to see people come from the darkness, utter darkness, from lost, and there's more to Grant's story and all of that than that is sort of told. I know that Grant was feeling a little bit nervous and uneasy and all of that, but there will definitely be a part two. Nice, Grant. Thanks for sharing. I think it takes courage for any person. How's it, Frank? I think it takes courage for any person to, once they've dealt with it, or to get used to speaking and sharing and things like that. You know, in my first real sort of attempt at recovery, when I was originally came here, I got service here at the RAEL farm. I've been connected with RAEL from when Mr. Hall established it in 2007. But I got reconnected again with the RAEL farm in 2014, and I was so broken and torn up from that time. I came off something like a 4-year binge, and you know, stuck in the cycle and things like that, just going lower and lower and lower down, and I think at that stage it probably took me about 3 months to look at myself in the mirror. I hate shaving and brushing my teeth at that stage because I didn't like what I seen, and it takes time to rebuild the confidence. It took me about 9 months to start sharing properly and openly and fluently in meetings at that stage, and it was all part of the rebuilding process. And that's exactly how it is, Ora. Is that I always try and explain to the. Thank you, Mr. Hall. I was taught by the best, and when the student is ready, the teacher will be there. And I believe that I was ready when I came to the farm. You know, we always talk about, you know, it takes a lot sometimes for an addict or alcoholic, but especially an addict, thinking that they can substitute one drug for another. And it clearly states in the literature, but not only in the literature, in our own experience as well, that I cannot drink because I was a heroin addict, or I cannot use dacha because I was a tick binger or user, abuser, etc. And Grant's story is the classic example of what I was trying to explain for the smokers that have tried to stop in this lockdown period, is that we need to stay away from that first one. Sometimes it's easy to go without a cigarette, and you go and you go and you go, and once you have that first one, the next one comes quicker. The same in addiction. Just in addiction is that it switches inside of me, that I become obsessive about the next one, and I've driven by compulsion. That is, my morals and values go out of the window, and the priorities take all the normal life priorities start taking second place, third place, fourth place, and then start not counting. And that is what happened in Grant's state. As he's not an alcoholic, that started off the relapse process, and we deal with addiction that is cunning, baffling, and powerful. It's confusing, and without help, it is too much for us. Because if it wasn't too much for us, then why are there so many people still addicted? No, this isn't a Caesar menthol. It's a Stuyvesant Blue. But they're rather scarce and expensive. But it is what it is. I gotta accept that if I want to smoke and I want to do things, then that is the way it's gonna be. So for sure, Grant came from a very, very difficult sort of situation that he got himself into. He got himself, the last time he was at RAEL, like he said, he got himself into a situation where he was in a furnished bachelor flat, going to work, doing meetings, going to church, and all of that, and then thought that he could celebrate with a drink, because that isn't originally what he came to rehab for. And that is what a lot of addicts fall back on. A lot of addicts suffer with thinking that because alcohol is socially acceptable, that you think of it as different. It's a drug. Alcohol is a drug as well. And we people that suffer with, like I said, if we have one, it hits the switch on. And I've lost the ability to control what mind-altering substance I take in. Like I say all the time, my body doesn't know if it comes from the pharmacy, the street dealer, from the hardware store, or from the bottle store. And that's what we teach you. Because if you love yourself and you are okay in your own skin, then why do you need something to feel more different or feel more better? And we always teach, and Richie likes to say that we play the movie completely through. Because what happens with addicts, we only fantasize about the nice part. But the devil gets us slowly. When we're 13, 14, sometimes younger, sometimes a bit older, it starts, pulls us in with nice music and lights and friends and lacquer times and all of that, and before you know it, you're smoking weed and taking MDMA or acid or ecstasy at trance parties. Because Mr. Hall likes to say that you people, your kids that are going to trance parties, do you think that they're eating hot dogs and popcorn there? Because how else do you party for 3 days? And so I just want to tell Mr. Hall to send, when he meets with Trump, with our Uncle Donald there in America, that he sends my regards, please, Mr. Hall. When you land that side, I hope your meeting with him goes well. And that all is well over here, thanks to you and what you've built up and what you've shown us how to live a new life in a better way. But at the end of the day, it's by us to continue doing that. And that is where Grant made a mistake. And that is where life is full on the outside. Where your meetings aren't on your doorstep like they are here in the sober city. Your support system and like-minded people aren't at your fingertips. And that's why we encourage our guys like Gladwin and Clutchy and Richie and all the guys that have been here, that have gone out, Big J, Freddie, a lot of the common names. Some of them we've managed to stay in contact with for a long time. And Stian, a lot of the guys we haven't really managed to stay in contact, and some of their family members and loved ones do, and they well. And some of the guys get complacent and they come back. And then we don't refuse them, because the addict that hasn't fallen hasn't got the experience to tell you how to get up from a fall. So life took over, work, and the normal survival that non-addicts live, and all the things that addicts need to do as well. starts taking over subtly outside there, and you skip one meeting. Later on, you think you're right, and you skip another meeting. Sunday's your only off day, and you skip that church service. And eventually, all your insurance, your building blocks against your wall that you've built up around you against relapse and against addiction, those bricks start coming off one by one, and your recovery starts breaking down. Yeah, no, for sure, Keenan. The thing is that we're really trying to remove the stigma here by going out and doing our activism work, by going out and showing in our actions, living the program in our actions that we are different people. By going out, by part of making amends and the program that we teach is that I used to walk around in my area where I'd done a lot of nonsense over the years growing up, or only grew up actually like 2 or 3 years ago. I'm still busy growing up, but making amends and having nothing to hide and letting all the skeletons out of the closet. That's why I can walk into any shop or any area, even if I've done housebreaking there, even if I've done crime there, and I can hold my head up high because I've dealt with it. If people are talking about me, Keenan, well, what they say about me is none of my business. And that is what is taught here as well. Whether I'm an addict or not, there's always going to be somebody that's not happy with what I'm doing and have something negative to say about me. And that is how we try and remove the stigma with our Orange Friday as well, which is for loved ones and people that know addicts that suffer. Because what happens in the communities is that I've got a kid, you've got a kid, and we're neighbors. And both our kids, because of this, the state of the way addiction is going now, everybody knows an addict. And we're both parents of addicts, and we're ashamed of it, and we question ourselves, and especially the mothers and fathers are asking what have they done wrong, and all of that. And what happens is they try and keep it hidden away, but that's a secret in the dark, and you're punishing yourself. And instead of, like at support group meetings for families, instead of speaking shit about your neighbor, say, hey, I've also got a son that was doing these things, and sharing it. Like Adie's mom shared the other night. She doesn't need to be ashamed of her son and her daughter. Drugs is out there, it's available. It's become almost normal that it's going to happen. Part of my belief is that it's easier to govern or to govern a nation that is drugged. But there's no shame in my mistakes. So if people want to talk about us, Keenan, let them talk. So I think the lesson in Grant's sort of share or meeting tonight is exactly that. And I'm also just going to read a short passage here that we back up with our own experience, because where there's theory, there must be practical. The only way to keep from returning to active addiction is to not take that first drug. And that's just part of it. If you don't work your program, that first drug is coming. Remember, we say that the addiction and the drugs is doing push-ups in the car park here. When you leave rehab, that's when the challenge starts. It's easy to stay clean in a rehabilitation center. But that's why we need to come to a rehabilitation center, because there's like-minded people. It's a controlled environment. Somebody's managing your life for you, teaching you life skills and time management, supporting you in support groups because they've been through what you've been through. And it's a controlled environment where you don't have the temptations. All the temptations, because relapse comes subtly. It can come through anything that's immoral. Come through anything that's immoral. It can come through anything that we lust over. If I'm lusting over a party and doing wrong, or over prostitutes, or obsessing about something, then there's something wrong with my program. And you learn that with experience in the program. So that's why we say the only way to keep from returning to an active addiction is to not take that first drug. If you are like us, you know that 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough. That's an old recovery cliche. Because once that first one comes, and you take that first one, after the next 1,000 that you're going to have, because the next 1,000 is coming, irrespective of consequences, that 1,000 isn't going to be enough. We put great emphasis on this, for we know that when we use drugs in any form or substitute one for another, we release our addiction all over again. That's where I speak about we hit that switch back on inside ourselves, to start that compulsion and that obsession all over again. Thinking of alcohol as different from other drugs has caused a great deal of addicts to relapse. And that's what I want to put out there for the parents. Thinking of alcohol and marijuana as different to any other substance is insane. Because I remember myself, I'm doing alright. I just had a dope or whatever. That's after being a couple of months clean of heroin or being to a rehab. I come out, I say, no, it's fine. I just had a couple of dope, I had a braai or whatever. But my life experience has told me that that was the start to my relapse on tick and heroin again. And if the literature says it, experience says it, as other people share that has been their downfall so many times to eventually picking up the drug and the wheels coming off again, then what makes you different? Why does an addict have to test the theory? I always asked myself, why did I have to be that oak that had to knock my head? Because it's about the honesty, open-mindedness and willingness that I spoke about last night. I first of all wasn't honest with myself. I wasn't open-minded to take the suggested steps from another recovering alcoholic or addict. And there were certain things that I wasn't willing to do. I had reservations in my program. Before we came to the program, and it's admitted here by the guys, they come in through the doors thinking, okay, I must leave the tick, or I must leave the buttons, or I must leave the heroin, but when I go out there I can still maybe have a joint, or I can maybe still have a beer at a braai. I tell the guys all the time, and it might be difficult to understand, the only thing that stops me drinking once I've picked up a drink is then picking up drugs, and then drugs becomes priority, and then the drinking stops. And the only thing that stops me from drugging is landing up in a jail or in an institution. And the only thing that keeps me stopped is consistently working my program without getting complacent. The program that is taught by Mr. Hall, who lives the program himself, who is 15 years sober. We are people with a disease or illness of addiction. That's what we say, that I've crossed that invisible line. I've lost the ability to control any mind-altering substance once I pick it up. Who must abstain from all drugs in order to recover. And living the program and doing the program is our medicine. It's our medicine for this illness. The support groups is the one medication that we need. The devotions, the life skills, the one addict best relating with another addict, because we can understand each other. And that should be the same with the parents and the loved ones. Should be relating to each other. When he manipulates, sorry, not manipulate, manipulate. When he manipulates, when he lies, this is how he makes me feel. And when you do that, parents and loved ones, you will feel the weight lift when somebody in that room or another parent identifies with you. Because instead of us addicts comparing with each other, and the parents and loved one comparing with each other, we should be identifying and relating with each other. So I just want to quickly run through a couple of questions, and in the hope that this reaches an addict tonight. Because in active addiction, I promise you, my life was a lot different to what it is tonight. Thank you, Mr. Hall and RAEL, for my life and the guy's life, and for God saving your life so that you could carry this message to us, sir. Are we sure we want to stop? Do we understand that we have no real control over drugs? Do we recognize that in the long run we didn't use the drugs, they used us? Did jails and institutions and hospitals take over the management of our lives at different times? Do we fully accept that the fact that our every attempt to stop using or to control our using failed? Do we know that our addiction changed us into someone we didn't want to be? Dishonest, deceitful, self-willed people at the odds with ourselves and our fellow man. Do we really believe that we have failed as drug users? When we were using, reality became so painful that oblivion was preferable. And that's what I said yesterday evening. That once the pain of using and our lifestyle exceeds the fear to change, then we become willing. And addiction recovery, when you get that gift of desperation, you should be at a point where you're willing to do anything, as long as it's not what you used to do. Because if you do what you used to do, you're going to become what you were. Over and over again, and that's the insanity. Parents and loved ones, if you react in the same way all the time, you're going to get the same results. When we speak up and we relate and identify, we find answers among other people what has worked for them. Thank you, everybody. Please carry this message of hope on that addict, drunk. Some call me a waste of skin. I've been called all kinds of names. So has Grant. So has a couple of the guys been watching. That whatever we were called, it's fine, call us that. Because by God's grace tonight, I'm sitting here sober. My loved ones and family are at peace. And if we share and carry this message, it could happen for another person too. Thank you, RAEL. Thank you, Mr. Wall, for our lives here on the farm, and that our parents can rest this evening. That our parents don't need to worry about us in the rain and the storm and everything that is going on at the moment. Thank you all for watching. I ask you again, please share and like our pages. If you do miss some of our live stories, you can also find them on YouTube. And it means a lot to us by you guys sharing and watching. Thank you from the whole of the RAEL organization. Bless you all.